Sunday and be blessed on Global 99.5.
This is Global Radio 99.5.
There is power in the name of Jesus. There is power in the name of Jesus. There is power in the name of Jesus to break every chain, 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 break every chain. There is power in the name of Jesus.
Yes, truly there is power
There is
in the name of Jesus to break every chain. I just want to welcome you here on this wonderful Sunday afternoon as we give God thanks for being alive in the land of the living. Another Sunday, another day, and it's a blessing to be alive. For there is power in the name of Jesus to break every chain. I just wish those of you a pleasant good afternoon, tuning in live on Global 99.5, Cable TV 974, Facebook, Zoom, YouTube channel, Transforming Lives radio show. And so we invite you to tell friends, family, and others to come down, be a part of the program on the program Transforming Lives, in which we share information about the transformation that takes place in the lives of individuals daily. Recognizing that the greatest challenge that the greatest transformation that one can have is having a relationship with Christ, not a church, nor a denomination, but a relationship with Christ. And so today I welcome you. I give God thanks. I was in Freeport Thursday up to last night. I came back. And like most of you too, I did get a chance to say hi to the Duke and Duchess. But I went down with prison chaplaincy department. They're establishing a number of new initiatives in Freeport, Grand Bahama. And they're establishing a system whereby persons in Freeport can speak to their incarcerated families in New Providence via telephone. So that is something that's about to happen very shortly. And it saves them the cost of a plane ticket, hotel, car, and whatever other expense to communicate with their loved ones incarcerated in Nassau. Also, another initiative mentioned by the commissioner, the acting commissioner, Dawn Clare, was the fact that there's going to be a center established in Freeport for persons who are incarcerated. During their final 2 years, they would be transferred to Freeport, and they would then get to spend those 2 years, of course, under government supervision and under some rules and regulations for their last 2 years. And of course, if they violate them, then they're transferred back to the Department of Corrections in Nassau. And there were a number of other initiatives. There was also establishing a bridge between the Chaplaincy Department, Prison Fellowship Bahamas, and those persons down in Freeport to facilitate transfers of monies to put on the accounts of their families who are residents at the Department of Corrections. So there are a number of initiatives. And also, I just wish to let you know, last night, CC Sweeting celebrated it in preparation for its 50th anniversary gala ball, which will be held in October under the auspices of the Deputy Commissioner, Clayton Fernando, and the Commodore of the Defense Force, who was there last night after flying out of Freeport like myself and coming straight to the event, Dr. Raymond King. And so we had a nice time, persons there from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and even 2000 were at that event. So that was a wonderful time. And it's the first in a series of events planned to commemorate CC Sweeting's 50th anniversary. And tomorrow, 9 o'clock, a number of former alumni will be at the school at a special assembly to speak to share, and encourage the students at CC Sweeting High School at the Cobras. Can any good thing come out of the big dollhouse? So folks, with that, I say pleasant good afternoon. I just want to allow my co-host to greet you she can introduce our guests, our well-known figure on the program. And today is a very special program that we're having. We're talking about renewable energy. I don't know much, so I got to sit back and learn. Jackie, welcome to the program, Transforming Lives.
Thank you so much. I'm dealing with some connectivity challenges and internet challenges. I'm not sure you can see me.
Yes, we can. It's dark, but we can see you.
Okay, just give me a
a little light just now, right?
second. Well, happy Sunday, everyone. It's a beautiful day, a beautiful Sunday. I'm glad to be with you on the show Transforming Lives. And every Sunday, we invite you to call your friends, call any and everyone to join us on the show Transforming Lives. We say call your friends, even if you have enemies, call your enemies. There's always good information to share on the show Transforming Lives. It's a show where we provide information that facilitates positive change. And today is no exception. We have a guest in the house. We have a topic as always, and something that I'm looking forward to hear information, because I'm looking forward to being informed on this subject. I don't know that much on this subject. So I'm glad that we have somebody who is well able to give us some vital information. Our guest is normally behind the scene. He's our technical support on the show, but today he's coming upfront personal to share on this topic. He is a pastor in the Bahamas conference. He is a friend. He is a father. And I mean, a Bible worker. I can tell you so many things about this young man. He's bold, strong, and courageous. He just had a birthday. This lion just had a birthday, and he was celebrating large in charge on Facebook. So without any further ado, I would like to present to you our guest speaker, the one and only Pastor Lyndon Williams, who will be sharing on the topic renewable energy. Welcome to the show, upfront and personal, the one and only Pastor Lyndon Williams.
Good evening. Thank you so much, Jackie. I'm glad to be here. Yes, as you mentioned, I'm usually behind the scenes. I'm comfortable in either area. I work well behind the scenes as well as I can step up front. I want us to discuss and generate some ideas. I read something just last week, possibly Friday, about a huge chunk of ice. Let's call it an iceberg for simplicity, that broke off in Antarctica at the South Pole. They're saying the temperature was 70 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. Yes. For them, that's like minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 70 degrees above. So it could easily slip to 60 degrees below zero on the Fahrenheit scale in Antarctica. I also saw another one where they discuss how an iceberg in May of last year, the size of New York City, actually broke off. They help you gain some comparison to put that in perspective. My notes indicate that it's about 1,800 or so square miles. Now let's help put it in. It's 89 nautical miles long by 14 nautical miles wide. New Providence, which works out to 1,668 square miles. The island of New Providence is 80 square miles. This iceberg that broke off in May of last year is 1,668 square miles. So New Providence could fit on that 20 times.
Wow.
So what is going to happen to that? That iceberg is going to float, and the sun will hit it. It will get smaller. The warm water will melt it from beneath. The sun will melt it from above. And gradually that will dissipate until it joins the water within the ocean. Here's where the challenge comes in. That means there's less ice. Light colors of white reflects, from what I understand, the sun's rays back. So there's less ice to reflect the sun's rays back into space, which means there's more heat to warm up the rest of the ice and cause that to melt. as well as warm up the seas, which in turn will cause more ice to melt. And as more ice melt, there's less sunlight reflecting it back in space. And it's a chain reaction. And so you hear people talk about climate change seeking to repair the ozone layer because of certain chemicals, carbon monoxide, I think it's methane gas, and certain other stuff that all happen to open the ozone layer, which is something that helps protect our Earth from the harmful, harsh rays of the sun. So as we deplete it, we're looking for trouble. Here's what we're looking at now. Companies and governments, et cetera, have come together some years in the 80s. The stuff that we were using to help with our air condition, certain chemical that were put in certain aerosols, et cetera, they started banning them and getting rid of them. So our vehicles, which breathes out CO2, diesel, gasoline, our power plant, some people use coal, some use oil like we do. Others may use nuclear waste, even though they try to clean it up as best as they can. The fact is it's still emitting harmful fumes. In the Bahamas, we don't believe in taking the trash, putting it in the bag and taking it to the city dump. Rather, what we do, we burn it. Again, that's more toxins going into the air. Some people say they don't really believe in climate change, but I say whether or not you believe in climate change, everybody likes fresh air. And you experience a difference in the city as opposed to when you go onto the family islands. The quality of the air, and their systems and things that they can measure it with, instruments they can use to measure how much toxins are actually in the air. So if you don't believe in climate change, fine, but they do know from satellite photos over the years that you do have the ice caps are melting and the seawater is rising. The last thing on this, if it continues at the rate that it's happening, which no one really expected or anticipated, what you're looking at is the seas rising. Now, when we have, I think they call it king tide in New Providence, and all of a sudden you cannot travel on Bay Street because all of the seawater has come up through the drains. What would happen if we continue to have this, all of these ice melting, or the ice caps melting, and you have the seawater rising? There's no place for it to go. It gets on the land, it dilutes the water table. You cannot grow your crops with that salt water. It has a lot of implications. In some parts of Asia, their main source of water is the ice or the snow melting from the mountains. So you have less there. Of course, we know about hurricanes that are more severe, etc. And they are increasing. I remember when I can name all the hurricanes on one hand that I had actually lived through in the 80s, nobody took hurricanes seriously until probably Andrew. They always went away, as we call it, said hurricane, go on away. Well, not anymore. They are here and they're coming at very quick pace. We just went through Dorian. So this is where reducing our use of fossil fuels come into play. And we talk about renewable energy. Now, there's several major sources of renewable energy that I want us to look at.
All right. So before we go into that, before we go into the sources of it, could you tell us renewable energy? You know, we throw that around lightly. What are we talking about when we're talking about renewable energy? What exactly are we talking about?
Something that renews itself. So if I put 10 gallons of gasoline in my car, I just filled up on Friday, eventually that will disappear. And if I don't refill it, the car will not work. Renewable energy is something that keeps coming back at you. It does not end. So solar is one. The sun is always there. It's just a matter of every 12 hours or so, we're back in sunlight. So that's solar. Where you have solar panels, the sun shines on them. And you take that and the panels will convert it to electricity. You have wind, where you blow a wind turbine and it generates electricity for you. Geothermal doesn't apply to the Bahamas, where they find these hot, let's call it cracks in the earth. They dump water inside of it, and that water comes back as super hot steam, which is used to turn a turbine to generate electricity. What we do have, we can take use of, is wave energy. And I want to focus a little on that because I think the Bahamas can utilize it. You have in Cat Island, I visited there a few years ago, and I noticed at a certain section, the sea wave was just moving. You just saw this current. I see it sometimes by Paradise Island Bridge where it's just flowing. And I'm thinking, what if we were to start looking at strategically placing the water just moving in one direction? Small turbines, which will generate electricity, and it's all tied into the grid, into BC. That will help the amount of electricity that is available. I've seen in Current Island, those of you who have been to Current Eleuthera, there's a little body of water in between Current Island and the Current, which is mainland Eleuthera. And that thing is strong. It is extremely strong. So again, I said, it's usually flowing. What if we were to put, let's call it a generator down there, so that as that water flows, it turns some blades, which will spin the generator, thus providing electricity. You have the glass window bridge where that heavy water comes in. Sometimes it's calm, yes, but in days when it's rough and it's threatening to knock the whole bridge off course, what if we found a way to harness that energy, tie that into the grid, and spread it throughout the island? And so those are some of the things that I've been looking at. I think of on our family islands where you have to run power lines for very long distances because there's nothing in between. If we could get micro turbines with winds, maybe even something of the likes whereby you put it a little distance out to sea and where the wind is blowing and you tie that back into the grid. Find a way to subsidize solar panels for homes so that the government, so that those of us in New Providence do not have to subsidize electricity on many of our family islands. People don't know that. The cost of electricity is so high, and then they have to ship the fuel there also. So we actually subsidize the family islands, I'm told. But what if we could find a way to utilize solar? We have a lot of sun, said about 300 days. What if we could find a way to utilize wind? Maybe it's not that good, but in some places, maybe it is. So we can begin utilizing these things here to cut down the amount of diesel or fuel that BC has to purchase. And in that way, we are able to do our part in giving one, fresh air, two, we reduce what they call our carbon footprint. And I want to go into something. We have a University of the Bahamas. I am fairly certain if we give our students the challenge to come up with sources or means of generating electricity just using solar and wind. There's biodegradable stuff where they basically take the garbage, let it rot. I see someone said I saw something on YouTube where they talked about mixing in, well, this was a fertilizer actually, taking dead animals that for whatever reason they couldn't use. No, they slaughtered a lot during COVID because it was just piling up. They couldn't sell them. Nobody was there to take care of them. So they had to kill them and burying it under soil with waste compost, food, etc. And then when that turns into gas, utilizing that, some say it's not practical. You won't get the type of energy you need, but every now and then the garbage dump on Harold Road actually catches fire because of the gas that has been building up by rotting garbage. So they're saying, instead of just leaving it there to rot, what if we find a way to control it and manage it? Maybe get someone to give them the contract to manage it. They develop, they invest their money, they do all of that, and then they take it and sell the electricity to BC. So that cuts down on amount of fuel that BC now has to purchase. Another one I'm thinking would be, people use it now, solar panels, and what someone has told me, he said not everybody has the batteries to store the energy. What they do is during the day when no one is home, they tie their solar panels into BC and they sell it to BC. Then in the evening when they come home, they feed back from the grid. And the goal is to either bring their energy bill to zero, or if they push more into the grid than what they use, then BC now has to give them a check. And so those are some of the things. There are some, and I want to share my screen briefly with you. There are some things that are happening right now with the government. And I'm going to, first of all, look at something that I read on Eyewitness News. I'd like to share with you. And this is one of them where Brian Lowe is talking about the government using, he mainly talked about solar. He said that we don't have sufficient wind on hand to properly utilize it. So it won't work for the Bahamas. And I'm posting the links in the chat. The headline is Op-Ed, Renewable Energy in the Bahamas, March 1st, 2021. And the individual Brian Lowe is talking about the use of solar as well as wind. Well, he did say wind isn't too strong, but he does talk about definitely the use of solar since we have, he says, some 300 days a year, sunny days a year. So he's saying, why not utilize solar at a much greater efficiency? The Bahamas has a goal of reducing our emissions to a certain level by 30% by 2033, which is about 11 years from here. And I'll share something with Urka that I found out. And when we have guests come to the Bahamas, the South Bahamas Conference brings in guests. Most people are amazed that we are not utilizing solar more than we currently do. They say, with all of this sunshine you have here in the islands, why don't I see more solar panels on top of roofs? And so that's something that we can also take advantage of. I found this here based on, let's look at Urka's thing, based on something that Urka has. Let's see if I can move this here out of your way so you can still see it. All I did was Google renewable energy Bahamas to find these links. I'm posting the links in the chat. Executive summary of BPL's renewable energy plan. And this grid here, I'm going to join the meeting to make sure I'm seeing what you're seeing. So give me a second. Okay, good.
This is
Just
great
want to make sure.
information. Thank you.
Okay. And so this is IRCA's 7-page summary for BEC. And here they state some of their goals, how much energy they want to get. New Providence plus Family Island share photovoltaic, I think I pronounced that right? Plus wind to energy generation. Try and remember some of these acronyms now. We come back to that. But these are their goals by 2030. They're saying 30% of the electricity generated in the Bahamas, they want to be generated by renewable sources. That's basically what they're looking at. New Providence and the Family Islands, so the entire Bahamas. Of course, the pandemic would have affected some of these goals to some degree, I believe. Right. And those of you who are familiar with the sports center, you notice they put up that huge solar panel that I heard they got as a grant. Well, that is also designed where persons can charge their electric vehicles. And this is another thing where we can cut our carbon footprint utilizing more electric vehicles. You will notice that the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, they traveled around with an electric car. When they got married, they used a converted electric Jaguar, something of that nature, that they drove off into their high on renewable energy. But the goal is to utilize as much renewable energy sources. And if everyone does that, they're saying then we may hit the Paris Climate Accord, where they set certain goals to reduce the overall temperature by 1.5 degrees to what it was back in the late 1800s. I don't remember the exact date. I did not bother to look it up. So these are some of the things that they're looking at. This is IRCA's plan. This one here is the Grand Bahama Power Company. They're saying homes as well as businesses can sell energy back to the grid to them, and they have the charges and everything here. And this one is from the Inter-American Development Bank, January of 2020, where they also talked about it, the Bahamas opportunity. So the question that I want us to begin looking at today is—
I just was going to go ahead. Because I was getting away. My question is, this is good information, that you're sharing with us from where you sit, and maybe some persons in the room can contribute to the conversation. Why do you think more Bahamians. I know I had a particular friend who recently installed a solar system, and they are talking about all the great benefits they are yielding. A friend, well, a family, I should say, great benefits they are yielding from the installation. Why do you think more Bahamians are not moving in that direction, especially the solar? I know some of the businesses are, but more private homes. What do you think are some, and like I said, anyone you can respond, and then maybe we can get contributions from person in the room. I don't know if someone has an answer to that. Why do you think more persons are not getting actively involved in purchasing solar in their home?
Well, one, you're looking at knowledge. Many people don't understand exactly how solar panels work. And then there's a high startup cost for many persons. The cost is going down gradually due to economies of scale. But many persons say the high cost of startup, because that is something that I was interested in for some years now. I'm still researching renewable energy. I'm really interested in it. I tell people I'm hoping that the next vehicle I get will be an all-electric vehicle, especially now that you can charge it for free. You can go by BC on Blue Hill Road. You have the solar park by the Thomas A. Robinson Center. I see Easy Car talks about a whole lot of them scattered across the island on their website. And they're saying they were the only company who really sold cars during the lockdown. I found that interesting. And so it's something that we may need to consider and begin looking at getting rid of burning all the oil, the coal, the gas, because they're limited. We don't know exactly when they will run out. I don't know if the oil companies know when a well may go dry. And if it goes
just
dry,
looking at the prices that we are now, with the war and everything like that, look at the
Yes.
prices around the world. So
look at
it's
Europe.
a real issue.
30% of their fuel comes from Russia. So they cannot just block Russian energy. They say Russia's selling us oil, then using that oil to fight wars. So they cannot just shut them off because it would put them in a bind with electricity and heating. And so there's this interdependence in everything. Someone has said that most of the wars that the US has fought in the Middle East is because of oil. They look out for their partners and whoever. When Iraq invaded Kuwait, they went in and fixed Saddam's business, pardon the phrase, because they realized Kuwait was a strategic partner and they have others. And so you have this delicate dance of you want to do something, but if you move too fast, it can create problems. But one of the things I'm noticing is that the world is changing. It's changing at a rapid rate. I follow electric cars. Before Tesla came out with the first Roadster, nobody really took electric cars serious. You had a few hybrids where the engine charged the battery, and when you brake, it put the energy back into the battery, but there wasn't anything serious. When Tesla came out with
You
the
saying
Roadster,
nothing serious? I have one of those cars. I thought that was a serious purchase when I did that. You said
when you're doing something, but nothing significant, how far can you drive with it, with the hybrid, if you don't plug it in? See, that is the question.
it's a starting step. Okay.
It's a starting step.
Yes.
When Tesla came out with the Roadster, then I think Nissan came out next. And when they came out with Model S and X, now there's hardly a car manufacturer who's not beginning to seriously look at electric vehicles, because the adoption rate is much faster than many automakers, traditional automakers, thought would happen. They're like, hold on, this thing is moving too fast. These guys are recent startups. They're the first company in like a century to actually be successful in starting an automotive company and not go bankrupt. And people want them. I just saw something today, and I'll share this site with you also, where it says that even with the increase in costs, they said that Tesla vehicles are booked for the rest of this year. So if you want to purchase a Tesla, you have to wait till 2023. Okay, here it is. And the Norway licensed more electric cars than the internal combustion engines. That's where Norway is. Okay, let's see. In the state of Washington state, they say by 2030, no new internal combustion engines will be allowed in the country. It's either there or it's not. Okay, here it is. So Teslas are now sold out until 2023 in the US. They just opened the store in
Wow.
Texas, as you saw, and they opened one in Germany. So there, people are purchasing the vehicles even at a very high price. So if someone feels generous and wants to treat me to a late birthday gift, maybe Jackie is feeling generous, she can, I'm seeing these Model 3 and Model Y here at an increasing rate in the Bahamas. So let's look at the base model. We're going to do a quick, just to show you an idea. And these vehicles are sold out. If you want one, okay. For some reason it went off. Let's see if I can get it back.
All right, so the people seem to be starting with the cars as opposed to, is that more affordable than the solar panels? A lot of
Yes,
people-
but I'm emphasizing this because what happens is renewables are a big thing and more persons are pushing it. In the Bahamas, to some degree, we are behind, and I think we need to catch up. I'm just trying to, for whatever reason, their thing is, not working. So I'm going to
So
choose.
we can catch up. Don't you think? I mean, there are
Yeah.
simple things, some like the energy efficient light bulb. Just starting with
Yes.
small, simple things like that. I mean,
Yes.
lots of people have not invested in that. You know, we could each person could play a part.
Yeah, I'm thinking we knew about fluorescence for some time, but as the young lady reminded me when I went into FYP, so they sold you a mercury bulb, which you know is not good, mercury. Anyone who knows anything about mercury. So now the next step is they've come out with the word slipped me just like that. What's the word? LEDs.
LED.
Yes.
Okay, I figured that's what
LED
it
light
meant.
bulbs, which are very bright and very efficient when it comes to energy. So that's something you can do to cut your light bill, begin changing the LED bulbs. They're still high, but over a period of time, if you get a good one, it cuts down on your bill tremendously because it's very bright, but it uses a whole lot less energy than your traditional incandescent light bulb. And so you will notice, you see people driving on the road with these headlamps that threaten to blind you. Those are LED light bulbs. So that's something that we can do to begin lowering our carbon footprint and lower your light bill. Everybody wants a low light bill. I don't know of anybody who says my light bill is too low, I want it to be higher. If you can find anyone, please send them my way. I'll give them my bill.
Right.
So those are just some of the things I'm saying we can utilize. The last one is on Charles Sanders Highway. There's a building, if you're heading west on the left-hand side, I don't know, Bar Grill, something like that. He has a wind turbine. And the other day I passed it heading home. And I told my daughter, I said, look at how fast that thing is turning. He's using that to store energy in his batteries. And then from the batteries, convert it into AC and power his business. Now he invested in it. So that's something that you have to do. Be prepared to make an investment. Maybe somebody, I don't know, may wish to get a loan, make the investment. And if you do sufficiently, you look for Energy Star appliances is another one. If you can afford it, when you buy your air conditioning unit, look for a high SEER. I don't know what that acronym stands for, but the higher the SEER, like 22 or 23, the less energy your air conditioning use. One gentleman made mention of the fact that he had about 6 of them. He said it uses the energy of a clothes iron that you would iron with, which is about 15 or so 100 watts. They calculated in watts. He's saying all 6 of them, but he has probably like 21 or 22 SEER. Let's call it SEER in his air conditioning units. They're very energy efficient. John Trotman, I should have invited him, has an air conditioner that uses solar, 48 volt. So he doesn't rely on DC to power his energy. He has solar panels. He put in a double throw switch and whatever, and that's what he uses to power his air condition. So the hotter the sun is and the clearer the day is, he can burn his AC and don't have to worry about the power bill. So those are just some things, but I want us to begin thinking.
Guiltless,
yes.
They call that guiltless pleasure. Guiltless pleasure. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And I think of my home.
I don't know. I mean, go ahead.
Yes. Nice. I think of my home where my children love the AC and they don't want it comfortable like me. They want it cold, where they have to cover up with a blanket. I call it the warm effect. So I know when the summer comes, what my light bill is going to do is going to look like a rocket from SpaceX that just takes off. So if I had thought about something like that, I might have actually looked at something like that. But the last thing, what if, like I said, what if we get UB students to start looking at building some of these stuff locally? You know, I think that's something that can generate the small business sector where we start building these stuff and installing them and everything. People are doing it, but if we can find a way to speed it up, I think that's something that can really be an asset to us.
I mean,
So let me hear from you. What are your thoughts on renewable energy?
well, I'm going to throw it out. I mean, you've shared some interesting points. I really definitely in my home would like to invest in the solar system, you know, solar panels. I know from an insurance perspective, so I just want to put in a plug there, you know, I just want for those persons who have made that big investment into the solar panels to know that those panels can be insured. That's what I want to put in. A lot of persons make the investment, but do not take into consideration that they can insure them because they can be, you know, destroyed in the event of a catastrophe. So you want to make sure that when you do insure your building, whether it's a business or a home, that you take into consideration your investment in your solar panel and you make your insurance provider aware that you have. Don't just assume they know. That they are aware that you have them installed, where they are installed, whether it's in the roof, which wood location, so that the file is properly documented to take that into consideration. So that's just a special plug there, just giving you advice in terms of how to protect your investment, because I do understand that it is a major investment. So note your files accordingly. So, I mean, we've been talking about renewable energy. And like you said, this is just a discussion because we're not the expert, but we just thought it fitting that it, you know, at this particular time to bring the discussion to the table, hoping that there are persons in the room that can make a contribution. I love your idea about the, you know, scholars getting involved in a research pertaining to it. So let's open up the room and let's see if we have any questions, any feedback. Let's go to our room, to the chat. Is there anybody want to make their contribution to the discussion? We have some persons in the room. Anybody like to ask a question, please? Here is an opportunity to ask question or just make, cost. So Roger's saying cost. I think he's saying it's a costly investment and that's the reason why persons have been reluctant. So maybe it's something that we need to, just like we do anything else, like how Bahamians, they like to, they see vacations being, no matter how costly vacations are, we see that as a necessity. So maybe, you know, these types of investment we need to save towards, you know, and I mean, there are persons who go and get loans for vacation. So something of this nature is a major investment. So maybe it's something that we need to consider. Not that I'm advocating loans, because the Bible says to us, we ought to be, you know, lenders. So that's not the direction I'm going into, but I'm just saying that I think that they're important enough for us to give serious consideration to.
It's so like a house.
Yeah, just like a house.
You go to the stress of getting a mortgage and getting a 20, 25, maybe 30-year loan. And yes, you almost pay back twice as much as opposed to spending the next 40 years renting, because you now have something as an asset that you can even borrow against. And when you finish, it's yours. So if you spend 50 years on an apartment, at the ending of 50 years, what do you have to show? Nothing. At the ending of 50 years, you still have a home and it's paid for. You can now borrow against it if you need to, you know, so it's an upfront cost on investment, but in the long term, you read. I want to share this. You can open your mics now. I was able to pull this up and I'm seeing more of these in the Bahamas as I drive around every day. The cost of this one here, this is not even the long range. It's 41,940. I think it's a 10% markup when it gets here. You have taxes, delivery. So let's round it off to close to 50. But what persons like is that they don't have to deal with the gas, the servicing every 3 months. your engine this, your transmission, all of those stuff, they don't have to. There's no vibration, there's no noise per se. And I'm told by everyone and everything I've read is that if you want, it is cheaper to charge than to fill up. I spoke with one gentleman who drives a Nissan Leaf. He says he averages 60 miles a day. He has a business and he says his light bill has gone up about $60 a month with a Nissan Leaf. So $60 a month. Some of us spend that within a week on gas. And that doesn't include the other stuff.
I just was gonna say, depending on the size of your vehicle, it could even be more.
Yes.
Okay.
I think,
Hi,
okay,
everybody.
Mr. Cambridge, go right ahead.
How y'all doing? I'd like to start off with this needs to be every country and state that you've mentioned so far. It started off with the politicians. There must be a political will that as a result of climate change, that moving forward, policies and regulations in this country is changed so that it is beneficial, super beneficial for you to move in the arena of renewables. I say that to say this: new home construction should have it where instead of you putting on regular shingles on your roof, you should now be applying solar shingles and/or solar tiles to your roof, which means you get a doubling of your investment. You protect your roof, and your roof now is a power generation scenario. For those who have to renovate, we understand that there's additional investment, but for new home construction, once you go along this line, that means that if your home needs 2 kilowatts, you get the 2 kilowatts, because in most cases, the size of your roof pertaining to the solar shingles will generate more than you presently need. And if you were to add a small wind turbine to that situation, with the new battery systems that are out, which are a little bit cheaper, you should be able to store enough energy for your home to take you, if not completely off grid, majority of your home should be off grid. Now, I heard about the situation with reference to, and it also means that your car that you buy, that you'd be able to plug up home and safely charge it, not having to worry about that additional $60 per month that person is now talking about. Because you have different charging systems, whether it be a slow charge or a supercharged system. Some of these supercharged systems can get your car up to 80% of its capacity within 30 minutes. Outside of that, when we speak of renewables in the Bahamas, logistically, the Bahamas is a nightmare as it relates to getting fuel from one island to another. And so we now have to take into consideration the combination of sun, wind, and tidal energy. Anybody knows about the tides in this country?
We're learning now.
Okay. There's something called the Antilles Current that runs from West Africa straight across the Atlantic, that brings all of the hurricanes this way. That is a guaranteed 10 knots of ocean current consistently 24 hours a day. It runs up the outside of San Salvador, on the eastern side of San Salvador, Maguana, Cat Island, Long Island, Eleuthera, and Abaco. Anybody's witnessed what happens at the glass window bridge in Eleuthera when we have strong winds and strong tide? You see how huge the waves are coming over that.
Yep.
Sometimes we have to.
Correct. They can't even cross over. Right. Mhm.
Yes. So that's energy. And we are not, in my opinion, utilizing what God gave us. And we're still tied to fossil fuel.
Yeah.
The biggest
Heavily
player.
tied.
Yes. It's strangleholding this economy. Right now, we are witnessing for the first time that I know of, gas being about $6 a gallon. Anybody in this group knows that gas is ever above, we've seen $5, but I've never known gas to be above $6. Like, this is historical. And it also means that we are in, in my opinion, we are in a crisis, because they are stating that crude oil will increase by summer. We're trading at over $100 a barrel for WTI crude oil at this particular juncture. And we are already seeing that if you were spending $50 a week to fill your car, you're now spending about $70 a week to fill your car.
Yes.
And nobody's salary has increased. In addition to that, when you go to the food store, you've seen that food prices have gone up.
Huge increase.
And
Absolutely.
nobody's salary has increased, which means that the cost of living in this country has gone through the roof.
Absolutely.
And we are sitting down twiddling our thumbs. The biggest push globally right now, as it relates to a fuel to replace fossil fuel, is that of hydrogen. And that is, they're calling that the green hydrogen economy. The seawater that surrounds every island that we have, we can take that seawater and through the process of electrolysis, convert that to hydrogen and oxygen. What does that mean for us if we're going to use hydrogen as a fuel? It means now that when you combust hydrogen, the only thing that you get after combusting hydrogen is water coming out of your tailpipe. Literally. And so if you make the fuel in your country, I will give you an example. Hydrogen right now is trading anywhere from $3.20 per kilogram to $5 per kilogram, maybe $6. And the Toyota Mira, which is the 2021 Toyota Mira, which runs off of a hydrogen fuel cell, has the fuel cell capacity of some 5 kilograms of hydrogen. If hydrogen was being sold at $12 per kilogram, it's trading at as high as $5 to $6. If it was sold at $12 per kilogram, you would need $60 to fill that vehicle. The range for miles on that vehicle is 402 miles. Y'all get what I'm saying, y'all? This is to fill up a vehicle with hydrogen.
Yep.
$60. And it's
Yep.
the cleanest burning fuel in the world. So something needs to be done. We need to educate ourselves more.
Yes.
If you want to learn more about hydrogen, just go on Google and put in green hydrogen, and you will see that mandates have already been put in, similar to that of electric vehicle. Germany has agreed that by 2035, they want to be 100% off of fossil fuels. Scotland, 2035, 2040, 100% off of fossil fuels. The commitment by China, Japan, and Australia is that they want to be the largest producer of green hydrogen in their regions. How do they do this? They have invested billions of dollars, billions, not millions, billions of dollars to turn their economy around. And this war with Ukraine and Russia has only helped to push and jumpstart the green hydrogen economy. What does that mean for the Bahamas? Can you imagine that if you're making your own fuel in the Bahamas, how stable your country is? But again, that is called political will.
Yep. I'm listening to you and I'm looking, I mean, somebody's saying the same thing in the chat. So if you hear me saying the same thing, political will, I was just reading the feedback. Yeah, so that's the reason why you saw me went quiet. They connected with your comment.
Yeah, and think about it. The electric vehicle right now on Gladstone Road is being sold by a company called Easy Car on Gladstone Road. They have their own brand called BYD that they brought in from China. Those cars are being sold in the Bahamas, but there's no mandate by the government or any government within the last 10 years that they've been open and trying to sell electric vehicles, that they have a guaranteed contract from the government that at least 50% to 60% of the cars that are from the government will be electric.
They'll be moving in a direction, small steps.
Imagine if the government led the charge in buying the electric vehicles from that company.
Right.
And the range on their vehicles is anywhere, the small vehicles is 250 miles, and the large vehicles is just over 300 miles on a full charge. Can you tell me where you are going to drive in Nassau 300 miles in one day, or even 250 miles? And it is cheaper for you to go home and pay a BC bill than for you to put gas in your car.
You're talking, I mean, you're bringing some real great facts to the table. Real talk, real talk. So sir, what is your involvement? You seem to be very knowledgeable. So I don't know if you want to share a little bit about your background. I'm just out of interest.
Out of interest, I am the person leading the charge in this country for green hydrogen, for us to switch over to green hydrogen and for us to utilize green hydrogen as the choice of a base fuel for us to produce and make ourselves so that we can stabilize our economy.
Okay, that's a worthwhile venture. And you have contributed much to this discussion, great information. And thank you so very much. We're nearing our time. It's 4:53. I see a comment, like I said, coming back. So thank you. We'd love to have you back another time. Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to quickly share something with our viewers. Look at this on your screen. It's saying that, where is it? I just thought I'd highlighted it.
It's highlighted. Great question. Norway is about
yes,
Norway.
This is in Norway. Nearly 75% of new car sales in Norway were plug-in electric vehicles in 2020. That's 2020. Some were hybrid, mind you, but Norway is the country that's leading Europe when it comes to electric vehicles. And you'll find that I shared something, I spoke about the Washington state, which is, I think, way near the border of Canada, says come 2030, you cannot bring the internal combustion engine in Washington state. If it's there already, fine, but you're not allowed to produce, ship, register in 2030. That's 8 years from now. And other countries in Europe, like Finland, Germany, and others have some very aggressive stands when it comes to electric vehicles. And so that's the trend that persons are beginning to move in. So I just thought I would share that one also.
Yeah, the policies are changing. The policies have changed, regulations have changed. Scotland, this year alone, last year in 2021, launched the green hydrogen economy in their country. They introduced more than 500 gigawatts worth of projects in the ground for green hydrogen, and their policies would have already been put in place for that to move. And England and the UK has agreed because they have a problem with natural gas and LNG because of the cost of it at trading it has maxed out at close to $130 per MMBTU.
Wow.
When it was trading as low as $2 per MMBTU 10 years ago.
Wow. Great information, and we know knowledge is power. We brought this to the topic, like I said, we brought this topic to the show just to start a discussion, not as the expert in this arena, but we just want to get the information out there. I mean, so like I said, especially in light of the war, and you hear so much discussion around the world, so it ought to be a concern. And we're already feeling now the effect of it in our pockets. Like you said, we can see the price of fuel, what we're paying for fuel. So more persons need to get involved. We said, I mean, something that's here talking about conflict of interest. Someone has a comment here. I just gonna put in there, conflict of interest in the group. I mean, a very interesting comment here. But I think what we want to say to our viewers and our listeners that, hey, it starts with you. each one of you are part of a constituency. Go to your people in parliament and say, hey, what is going on? What are your thoughts? What are your views? How can we as a community address this whole topic about renewable energy and pollution in our country, lowering gas prices? There are so many things that we need real talk. You know, the people say real talk, real discussion is needed. I don't know if anybody else in
Yes.
the group, go ahead.
While they're putting your thoughts together, Jackie, you will take note that the only dealer rather, in the Bahamas presently who is advertising electric cars, I don't know if anyone else is selling them new, is Easy Car Sales. And there's a reason for that. Most dealers make their money on repair and maintenance. Electric cars, because of their nature, I'm not talking about the hybrid, just pure battery electric vehicles.
Okay, not the hybrid, because I can tell you the hybrid, if that battery, and I experienced that, I'll just, the amount that I had to pay for a replacement battery, I might as well buy the car.
Yes,
It's
but
that
just
expensive.
battery electric vehicles, they don't have as much repair need as the internal combustion engine or gasoline vehicle. And so the
Answer the
dealers will
question.
not
You
be
answer the
making the
question.
amount of money. I know,
Yes.
was it Volkswagen or GM? One of the two basically told their dealers, look here, get on board because this is the direction we're moving. If you're not interested, we will buy you out. I remember reading that discussion. It may be Volkswagen or GM, I don't remember which one, but the Ford F Lightning, 150 Lightning, whatever it's called, they said they would do about 60,000, I think, the first year. The requests that they have has been so high, they're now looking at, hey, we have to ramp this up because people are interested in purchasing them.
Yep.
Tesla sold 900,000 electric vehicles last year. They're probably one of the few companies, if not the only one, who actually saw an increase in their sales when everybody else was complaining. There are several reasons for it, but people are interested in having less maintenance, less repair, not have to keep looking at the pump. And persons are looking at what can I do with solar? And so these are things that we need to begin looking at because like I said, whether or not you believe in climate change, everybody likes fresh air and everybody likes spending less money. You pay for an electric car up front, but when you calculate, I said mine right now is about $50 a month. So I'm going to do a quick calculation for you. If I'm paying $50 a week times 4, that's $200 times 12. I'm spending $2,400 a year times 6. That's $14,400 over 6 years just on gasoline. Now, I remember the gentleman who was driving a Nissan Leaf said he spends $60 additional per month on electricity, and he drives 60 miles a day because he's running up and down. I can tell you, the most I have ever driven in a single day was about 80 odd miles. And that's because I was driving around the city, went out Clifton Pier, past the place, so I had to circle all the way back around and then drive back and then do my regular pickups. I made 84 miles that particular day. But on an average day, if you use like me, I keep my Google Maps on. So you go in Google Maps now, you hack me, you will get an idea just how many miles I drove yesterday. You drive no more than 20 to 30 miles a day if you drive that much. It's very low. So when you look at it, range anxiety shouldn't be a problem, especially in the Bahamas, where you may drive 110 miles if you live on a family island. And even then, people in the family islands like Eleuthera, where I worked for 6+ years, they drive maybe 2 settlements north or south from where they live in either direction on an average. They don't go so. When I had convention in Bluff, somebody said that's the first time they've been in Roxanne. I had convention in Roxanne from Bluff in, I forgot how many years. They usually don't cover those long distances. So you can get by easily with 300, let's say 200 miles on a full charge. You're talking about plenty days before you have to plug in and charge again. And the newer vehicles, you can plug back into your home so that if the power goes, you can now use your car as a backup generator. So that's something that they're also making the vehicles that they're able to do. And you can plug in your toaster if you want to go camping in some of these vehicles now, because you can plug in, your light or whatever, your phone, your computer, whenever you go camping or go far out in the wilderness, so to speak. So that's something else that persons would want to look at.
All right. We've thrown a lot of options out there. Sir, I don't know if you have, Mr. Cambridge, one final comment before we close. You have lots of information. So before we close and we go back to Pastor Williams, I'll go to you and then back to Pastor Williams with his closing comment.
Based on where the world is today and the information that we would have gotten from last year as it relates to the increase of crude oil and also natural gas, the Bahamas is sitting on a precipice. We will either soar or we will dive off the edge of a cliff.
Wow.
We have to make the right decision, and we have to make that decision now, today, not tomorrow, today. And it cannot be what is being done or what has been done over the last 10 years, which are these little incremental nitbits. I'll give you an example. 900 kilowatts was put here at the stadium. That was a gift, a $3 million gift. And we do not know what this 900 kilowatt solar parking lot system has done as it relates to assisting BPL in lowering the cost of electricity in this country. If it was that they were going to utilize the entire parking lot for the stadium as it relates to the basketball, the baseball, the softball, and all these other areas, to say that when you come to park, we are going to have a 5 megawatt or a 6 megawatt situation, then we would say that that is something headed in the right direction. But you have to take into consideration that during the summer months, New Providence is going to need close to 300 megawatts of energy per hour.
Wow.
And so, again, it's political will, and we need to have it done now. Not tomorrow, not that we'll think about it, not that we're going to put a committee to do anything as it relates to doing any research. Other countries are doing it. All of Europe has transitioned. All of America has now transitioned. Everywhere in the Eastern world has transitioned. We need to transition as a country of 400,000 people and make it happen immediately. It is what it is.
It is what it is. I love what you're saying. I think I missed a question that was in the chat, but I see Mr. Cambridge and Pastor Williams. Any recommendations on starting small solar generator that runs a few appliances or a room? Not everyone needs a whole house solar panel. Powered. Sorry, not everyone needs a whole house solar powered. Course and where to buy. Any feedback on that? Sorry, I overlooked that question in the chat just before we ran out of time, but
yes, I know one company that deals with it, AC Electric. There are a number of them. FYP is another one, and you have several that do offer solar. So if you were to go on Bahamas Local and Google it, solar companies, the companies that install solar, then there are individuals who install it who would assist you and show you what you need to buy and everything. You have several options. A number of persons are doing that now that I know of.
okay, I think you put some information in the chat. Yes, I think so. Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you so much, Pastor Linda. You have been a wonderful guest. I mean, you open up the discussion. Thank you so much too. Thank you also, Mr. Cambridge, for your contribution, your valuable contribution. That's a valuable contribution. And Pastor William, I'd like to give you your closing comment.
Yes, I don't know, Dave, whenever you're ready to close off from the radio station, but I just would like us to begin a discussion in setting. I like some of the goals the Bahamas has set, but I still think we can beat 30% if we really want to, if we push. As Mr. Cambridge said, he gave so much valuable information. A lot of it I did not know, whereby we start encouraging and giving incentives for people to install solar on their homes. BC just signed a contract the other day with some company that will create a battery, they call it. Basically, it's a large flywheel, from what I'm understanding, some type of flywheel that when the power is running, it spins it up at a tremendous speed. And so BC goes off, it then in turn will spin a generator to provide electricity, but it's still fossil fuel. But what Cambridge is talking about hydrogen, and I'm saying let's utilize solar and water much better. I didn't know that thing about the Atlantic that he was talking about, but if we just start small and start looking, you'd be amazed to know what will happen if we just start working with what we have, how much further we can be, and not having to worry about some of these stuff when hurricane come and so much lines going down and so many people being out. Maybe we can have people who are pushing back into the grid to help their neighbor or someone else down the street. I just think there are options that we need to begin looking at.
Thank you so very much. You have more than, hey, we want to start the conversation. We more than started. We've given our audience great information for them to consider. And now I'd like to turn the program over to the one and only Mr. David Williams. David? Okay, I'm not sure if we're having a challenge. David, can you hear us?
Jackie, while Ms. Gardner, while David get himself together and comes back to the microphone, I think Mr. Cambridge and certainly Mr. Williams gave some very valuable points as it relates to energy. One of the things, though, and I see your mic is still open. One of the things that I wanted to engage you about was this whole idea of ocean energy. Very interesting that you mentioned that. But Mr. Cambridge, isn't that when you look at ocean energy, isn't that cost prohibitive, or that is something that you think we can look at in terms of making it viable here in the Bahamas? What do you say to those persons? Say, man, it's really in terms of the capital that is going to be needed to move in that direction. It's cost prohibitive. What's your thoughts? Unmute your mic, Mr. Cambridge.
Hello, you can hear me?
Loud and clear.
Awesome. The CapEx for investment is going to be huge. And things dealing with the ocean lakes to the currents. That is the most predictable energy source that you can find, even stronger than that of wind. So at this time, because of economies of scale, it is not as huge as the solar and wind industries are or have progressed to. But in short order, because of the aggressive nature of what is happening with renewables, we're going to find that the cost of getting these technologies introduced will come down. So today we may be looking at $1. In 5 to 6 years, we may be looking at 75 cents.
So to that, go ahead, Mr. Williams. Go ahead.
There's another one that I forgot to make mention of when I was investigating renewable energy is salt. Inagua has a lot of salt. The Southern Islands, what some companies have done, they arrange a large tower, maybe 100 feet up in there. I don't know, they remember the heights. and they use solar panels all around it. And they focus,
Thermal.
let me see if I remember, some sort of a parabolic dish. I'm trying to remember now, it's been a while. And they focus all of the energy from those parabolic dishes. Yes, the sun hits the dish and the dish shoots a beam up to the top of that tower where you have salt that is melted, and the salt melts at a very high point. That salt that melted salt is stored, because they then use that melted salt to boil water and turn it into steam. And that steam is then used to spin a turbine, which produces electricity. I don't know if we have space in New Providence, but I'm certain in some of the family islands and the smaller communities, you can utilize something like that. And so that's just another way, rather than relying on all these long power lines and the poles and everything, you can simply utilize the salt aspect of it to produce electricity. So there are different options that I'd like to begin to see us utilize in, certain things, rather than just this one trick pony that we have, which is getting bunker fuel, and every now and then you have a spill. So we do have options that we can utilize. I forgot about salt.
Both Jackie and okay, she's Ms. Gardner is back.
No,
and
I'm back.
and
I'm
Dave.
back. Okay,
and-
David's back. So once again, I'm turning the show over to end our show. Thank you so much for joining us. Turn it over to the one and only Mr. David Williams. Thank you so much and have a beautiful afternoon.
Okay, thank you. Clay Garden, I know you had something to share in regard to an upcoming conference. You want to share it?
Yeah. Before we go, on Thursday evening, the 7 o'clock. Well, we're going to start at 6 o'clock in earnest, which is what I call the pre-forum. 6 o'clock, we're going to have an hour of discussion concerning the economy and cost of living, and just what we're talking about, even renewable energy. But at 7 o'clock, our guest is going to be in Mr. Michael Halkitis, Cambridge, and maybe you would want to drop me a WhatsApp and come in the room and maybe ask some question on this whole topic of renewable energy. My number is 636-3673. If you're interested in coming into the forum, just drop me a WhatsApp and say, hey, Gardner, I heard you on Global talking about your emerging and medium business forum, which is going to be held on this coming Thursday. Cambridge, we do it every other month. So we have a conference here in March. We're going to have another one in May, and then so forth. So it's every other month. And we talk about, business topics, economy, and so forth. And so banking, of course, the hurricane season that's coming up, how that relates to business. So it's a very dynamic and informative, impactful, insightful, inspiring, interesting, and innovative forum. So send me a WhatsApp, if you will.
803-3685. 803-3685. I'd like everybody in the group to tie me into them in WhatsApp. I send out information pretty much every day on the green hydrogen economy and where it is and what countries are presently doing to change their portfolios.
Repeat the number again for us.
803-3685.
Okay. All right. Well, my number, like I said, is 636-3673. If you want to join the forum on Thursday evening, pre-forum is 6 o'clock, and then the forum starts in earnest, Lyndon, at 7 o'clock sharp. So if you have some time, just drop in. It's via Zoom, of course, and we'll be glad to have you guys. Great discussion on this whole idea of renewable energy, and I know we had set some goals at the Bahamas, that is, by 2030. Cambridge, I think that's a bridge too far, but anyway, that's a topic of another day.
When you speak of 2030, Like I told you, you have guys that are, and then we're talking about 30%. You have persons, or sorry, you have countries that are speaking of a complete transition by 2030, that they will be 100% off of fossil fuels. And again, regulation and policy needs to be put in place. And the majority of these places are island nations. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can adjust what they're doing for as it relates to their policies, whether they're aggressive or not. But I'd like to add one last comment. We are now renovating and or rebuilding Abaco and some parts of Grand Bahama. But I'll go back to Abaco. Why are we putting back overhead lines in Abaco again, when if another hurricane hits, whether it's category 1, 2, 3, or 4, that those lines will be ripped out of the ground again? Why are we not going underground?
Mr. Cambridge,
Cost prohibitive.
Mr. Cambridge,
Go ahead, brother.
sorry, I gotta interrupt you. I have to take this off live off the air, and we just continue on Zoom for another 10, 15 minutes.
Awesome.
Folks, you've been listening to the program Transforming Lives on Global 99.5. I'm Dave Williams, host of the program, along with my co-host Jackie Gardner. We here every Sunday 4 to 5, as you know, on Facebook, Zoom, YouTube, Cable TV 974. Want to thank you for tuning in. We got a few extra minutes today on the radio. As you know, we should have ended at 5 p.m. And so I just want to end the way I always end by reminding us that there's nothing more important than having a relationship with Christ, your personal relationship, not a church, not a denomination, but a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Dave Williams, Jackie Gardner, Transforming Lives. Have a wonderful afternoon. You can continue.
Yeah. So like I was saying, you know, we are going in to rebuild Abaco, and we've talked about rebuilding Ragged Island, and all of these places do not have what you'd call submerged utilities. And so the next time we have any type of severe weather passing through, which could be at any given time, it does not have to be a hurricane, it just could be a severe thunderstorm. And there's a threat that whatever we have there could be knocked out because it's overhead. And the question is, if we are going to invest monies today to rebuild Abaco, why not rebuild Abaco in the right way and do it now, so that anything that happens over the next 25 years, the one thing that we would not have to do is replace any poles and any overhead lines. That's just an open question.
Jackie, if I can say, what Mr. Cambridge is saying is something to consider. Yes, there's a higher startup cost to it, but with solar panels, when persons put them up, from the little that I know, storm is coming, you can take them down. They're not that heavy. So you take them off your roof, and when everything is passed, you put them back up, and you're good to go right again. So while everybody is in darkness and running noisy generators, you producing clean electricity for your home, your emergency rooms, or if you could afford, depending on how many batteries, the entire thing, and you're good to go again. So everything that is new has a high startup cost. We know that. But eventually, through economies of scale, as it becomes more common, it goes down. So like flat screen television, look at the cost of them now. I purchased a 55-inch for someone the other day at about $700, roughly $800, okay? For 55-inch 4K television with all the bells and whistles, we could hook all the stuff up to it. When they first came out, they were plasma. You could use it to heat up your house during the winter, and cost about 10 grand. Now the cost has just plummeted because so many people are making them, the parts and everything have become cheap. And so that is something that we have to bear in mind. If we start doing it, like I'm saying, the students at UB, I'm fairly certain, you give them the challenge and they will come up. And all you need is 1 or 2 persons to start, and others getting on the bandwagon, and you watch how things can just start proliferating. So that is something we can begin looking forward to.
Okay. What do you say? Anyway, they come on. I got more to teach you the first verse. And it goes out through the
So I don't know if Jackie seems to be having some challenges, but any other questions or comments as we wrap up from persons who questions or comments on our topic, renewable energy?
No, we're at the end. We went on
Okay.
for way beyond our 5 o'clock. So thank you very much to you, our guests. Thank you to Mr. Cambridge. And thank you for all of you who remain in the room way beyond 5 o'clock. Good job to all of you. And like we said, the intent was only to start a discussion. So thank you so much and beautiful Sunday to all.
Okay, just want to thank you as we sign off for a wonderful day. We're looking forward to next week, same